Hi, folks. Welcome, welcome. We'll get started in about 30 seconds or so, but happy Friday. We're really glad to have you with us, and we're about to have a grand old time. Absolutely. Wonderful, wonderful time. I hope the weather is decent wherever it is that you are chatting from. We have gray with a little bit of brighter gray right now, but, you know, 'tis the season. Not in Miami, Florida. Oh, well, that's okay. Let's see here. I think we'll go ahead and get started, folks, for time. But thank you all for joining us on a Friday. I understand, folks are really busy in that. But students, I'm really glad that you're able to join us. My name is Keaton Hain. I'm an assistant dean of admission at Colgate. I've been with the school for about 5 years. I have read and traveled for a wide variety of regions and territories before, but as of right now, this moment, I'm the dean for places like New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. So an extra special hello to those folks. I'm joined today by two awesome students who will be not really guiding through the session, but they are sort of the main eventers of our session. This is all about them. So I'll turn things over to them. They'll introduce themselves, and then to students, I'll break down what you can expect over the next 45, 50 minutes that we have together, but should be a rockin' old time. And John, why don't you go ahead and go first?
Hi everyone, my name is John Morgan. I'm a current junior from Stafford, Virginia. I'm a Middle Eastern and Islamic Studies major with a double minor in Peace and Conflict Studies and Geography. Outside of admissions, I serve on the SGA President's Cabinet as the Diversity Affairs Coordinator. I'm one of the French and Arabic tutors on campus, and I'm a member of the Colgate Debate Society.
All right, I'm going to try to follow that up, but John is one of the most coherent people I know, so I might be a little bit more messy. But my name is Sarah Harris. I'm from Westchester, New York. I am a sophomore, so I'm in the class of 2023. As of this morning, I wake up every day with a different decision, but I have decided to be a major in psychology and a double minor in film and media studies and education. So very different from what I woke up feeling yesterday. That's a great thing about liberal arts schools. Other than being involved in the Office of Admission, I am in 3 tutoring clubs on our Link staff, which is our version of like orientation leaders. I do a mentoring program, and I recently joined a Greek letter organization.
Awesome. Both of you are totally not busy at all, right? So again, students, you're going to hear all about, Sarah and John, sort of what they do literally in a day. This webinar is Colgate all in a day. So each of them are going to walk you through, when they wake up, how they proceed through their day, and, right until they go back to bed, when that does happen, that is. I'm only playing. Now, I just want to set a couple parameters. So first things first, you're going to hear about their day and sort of like a normal day, right? I know we're in the midst of COVID-19, but everyone's sort of been bogged down with that as of late. I thought it would be more helpful to hear about normal days. I am going to ask both students to follow up as far as adjusting to the quote unquote new normal, but the majority of this will be, what happens at Colgate sort of during a normal time. You will also notice, students, at the bottom you have a Q&A feature, short for question and answer. If at any time you have questions about anything at all, please submit them via that Q&A feature. You will see there's a chat feature. I'll ask that you don't utilize that feature, use the Q&A option. So John and Sarah will talk about their days it'll take us about 25, 30 minutes to get through, but they'll be fun and, bring a lot of energy. So it'll go really quick. And then we'll wrap up with about 20 minutes worth of questions and answering those. But students, this is going to go pretty fast. We'll make sure everyone can get to their weekend as soon as possible. So that being said then, John, I guess since you're class of 2022, I picked you first.
Okay.
But yeah, take us through your day from the morning you wake up and how your whole day proceeds after that.
Yeah, so usually on any given day, I am an early bird. I'm crazy like that. I do wake up super early, so I will wake up at 6 a.m. every single day without hesitation, regardless of when I went to sleep the night before. So I'll wake up at 6, I'll get showered, I'll get dressed, and then I'll go to Frank Dining Hall to eat food. My personal favorite is I'll say hi to Stacy on my way in. She's the front desk lady. She always says hi. So I'll swipe my card. I'll go in. I'm not a coffee person, so I'll usually get either like orange juice or tea. And then I'll get sort of a bagel, toast, some bacon, peanut butter to spread on the bagel. That's my usual breakfast. And sometimes during breakfast, if I haven't had enough time to do homework the previous day, I'll like eat while I do homework. And then afterwards, I'll typically go to my class. That's usually at 8:30 in the morning. So after that, I'll be in class for a little bit. And then in between my classes, I'll usually hang out with friends, or I'll do some more homework that I haven't done yet. And then usually I eat lunch around Frank or the Coop. I'll get something really quick to go, or if I'm meeting someone, I might sit there and eat with them. And then afterwards, back in class. And then during the afternoon is usually when I have a little more free time. So on usually Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I will usually go to the gym. I'll go there for about 30 minutes to an hour. And then afterwards, I'll come back, do some homework in my room or in one of the academic halls in the student lounges and just sit there. And then 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock is usually when I have tutoring. So I'll tutor either French or Arabic, whatever I'm doing that day, for around an hour. If anyone shows up, then I tutor them. If they don't, then I get to do homework and I get paid for it. So that's really convenient. And then afterwards, from 7 to 9 p.m., I go to debate practice every Tuesday and Thursday. And so that's really fun. I'll be there. It gives me something to do. And then afterwards, we all go to a team dinner. And then afterwards, I'll do some more homework and then I'll go to sleep.
That's a pretty busy day. John, a couple of very quick follow-ups. You mentioned two important places, Frank and the Coop. Very quickly, could you just tell our observing students today what those are and what the difference is between them? They're both about food, but they're just a little different, and that's just helpful information for them to have.
Yeah, so Frank Dining Hall, both of them are sort of the two primary dining facilities on campus. Frank Dining Hall is more sit-down, sort of self-serve buffet style in regular non-COVID times. And so a lot of students will just sit there and eat. Sometimes they'll grab stuff to go, but that's mostly the sit and eat. Coop is more grab and go, same type of food, sort of the usual American cuisine, things like that. And then in terms of like COVID times, it's more they serve you. It's more grab and go, a less capacity for sitting and eating, but in regular times, it's pretty popular.
Thank you, John. Always helpful to know a little bit more about food whenever we can, certainly. So Sarah, that's a pretty busy day to follow. So, you're up now. So what does a typical day look like for you from the moment you wake up until the moment you go to bed?
Just one thing I want to quickly add on to just knowing about dining halls. Frank typically is 24/7. It's a very big selling point of it. So I think that you guys should know that. So whether you're up at 6 a.m. because you're John or going to bed at 2 a.m. because you're procrastinating your homework, you could always find food, which I think is really important to point out. With that being said, I'm very happy that you have both me and John on this panel because we seem to have very different days. I'll tell you guys about my busiest day. That was last year. It was a Tuesday. So my typical Tuesday, my favorite day of the week, I would wake up. I'm a little bit more of a later riser. So for me, that means 9 o'clock, but I know I have friends who woke up at 12 and that was totally fine because they have afternoon classes. And my first class would be at 9:45 and I would go to class for about an hour and 15 minutes. And then after that is when I would get breakfast. So I would go to the Coop for breakfast because we have smoothies at the Coop on our meal plan, which I love to sing its prayers or praises or whatever. Because they're actually really good. For an extra $1, you could put protein powder in there if you're trying to bulk up. I've never done it, but I definitely suggest it if you want. So then after that, I'll typically grab my packages because my mom is always sending me something because now she's an empty nester. So the Coop is where you could also pick up your packages. So I would do that. And by that time, it was probably 11:30. So then I would walk down to Hamilton Central School, which is the central school of Colgate University's town, and I would volunteer in a preschool classroom there for about an hour, just helping them color or learn how to spell their name. It was really fun, and actually a lot of the students in that class have parents who are either in the faculty or staff of Colgate, so it was really fun. So that I would come back from that and go to Frank and see some girl's like father working at Frank, which was really fun and makes it so that you're interacting with everyone. Then I would come back up the hill, and by that time it was probably about 1:30, I'd say, and I would have a 2 o'clock class. So I would go to my 2 o'clock class, enjoy that, another hour and 15 minutes. I'm probably getting the times wrong because everything is changing now. But then after that, I would go to another tutoring club where we would drive about 20 minutes to Stockbridge Valley, which is another school district about 15, 20 minutes away. And I would help out in a first grade classroom there. So there we'd be doing more stuff like reading, working on writing, stuff like that. So more than just coloring. And that was really fun. And I would travel in a group of 4 people. So that was more of like a club style, which I really enjoyed. After that, it would be time for my homework. I do not procrastinate as much as John. So I would typically be doing my homework, I'm sorry, for the next day. So the homework that I got on Tuesday for Thursday, because I would do Wednesday's homework on Monday, Tuesday's homework on Sunday, and Monday's homework on Saturday, just so that I like get ahead of it. And my friends always get mad at me for being so prepared. After I finished my homework, it was about time for dinner. And on Tuesdays, I'm in Brown Commons, and Brown Commons actually has this special thing where you could cook with professors in like this very nice kitchen in Burke, which is one of our new dorms. And there we would make whatever we wanted. So my favorite thing to make was like udon noodles, because I had never had that before, and we like made it homemade, and that was super cool. And then my favorite dessert was tiramisu. And the professor who was always there is Professor Jeff Berry, who I believe is an astrophysicist here at Colgate, who has like NASA grants. So he's one of the most intelligent men I have ever met. And I would never meet him other than this cooking thing. So I just love to point that out, how you're really interacting with professors from everywhere. So like I have friends in the computer science department now, and I'm like, wow, maybe I'll take intro to comp sci just because I love this professor from eating a meal with them. After that, it was a Tuesday. So The Bachelor wasn't on, I don't think. But we would just hang out in my common room, hang out with friends, watch some TV, chat about our days. And then I'm such a grandma. I go to bed at like 10 o'clock. So I would leave a little bit early and go to bed for my big day the next day. So that was my day.
My goodness. So students, of course, 2 sort of very different days. That's what I always like to say. There's not one particular, day that happens at Colgate. There's not one particular student. And I apologize. It seems like the eye of Sauron is shining on me right now. That is a Lord of the Rings reference. But do my best not to look too sort of blinded. But thank you both for sharing those days. Now, a couple of questions have come in, so students, thank you for those. One that I'm curious for the both of you, and this is sort of like I'm springing this question on you, but you mentioned like your day, like your, I'll call it like your work day, right? Your class day, Monday through Friday. What happens Saturday and Sunday for the 2 of you? Like you're not in class all the time. You have some extra downtime. Like take us through like a weekend day. Sarah, if you want to start this time.
I was actually going to say I'm going to start because John has started twice, and that's really unfair. So for me, a typical weekend, I say we'll go with Saturday. So Hamilton is a great little town to hang out in. So I would wake up maybe like a little later, like 11 o'clock probably, just because like we're running all the time. So it's nice to have some moments to sleep in. And after that, I would walk downtown, or like if you wanted, you could take a cruiser, which is just a system that we have on the Colgate app. It's really efficient. You don't need a car while you're here, even though we let you have a car for all 4 years. Sorry, I just gave a tour, so I'm really in like tour guide mode. So I would walk down to Hamilton, and I would go to the farmer's market. So basically the farmer's market is, if you've ever been to a farmer's market, it's just like that. But I like to go at the end, because a lot of the people who have like fresh produce or things that they can't like take home, they'll give it to you for free because they know that you're like a college student and we're really close with the community. So I would go at the end to like try to maneuver like some free grapes, but I'd still like give some money, but not like pay the full $10 for some grapes, because that's a steep price to pay. Then after that, I would probably take all my new produce and food and everything, and I would go into Fojo Beans, which is a coffee shop on campus. And I believe that they take gate card, which is just how you like get into places and how you pay for stuff on Colgate's campus. So it's really convenient. I don't really need money unless I'm like at the farmer's market, then I need money. But unless I go late, then I don't need money. So I would go to Fojo Beans with some of my friends and we would just hang out and do some work. After that, like I spend a lot of my time on Saturday doing work. As I mentioned, I have to get my Monday work done. So I would head back up the hill and we would just like hang out in someone's room, maybe watch some shows or something like that. And then at night, it really depended on what was going on, but there's a lot of different things that you could do at Colgate at night, which is something that I love about it. So tonight, actually what I'm doing is I'm doing like marshmallows and s'mores, or not marshmallows and s'mores, s'mores in the Burt Quad, which is right this way. You guys don't know where I'm pointing, but it's right out my window. And that's hosted by OE, which is our outdoor education group. And they're just putting together like 7 campfires, giving us all the supplies that we need. And that's super fun. Last weekend, I went to a Hocus Pocus like movie screening on our stadium, like at our stadium. So rather than using like the big jumbotrons to like show our athletes, instead it was to show Hocus Pocus. It was way better than a movie theater experience. And so Colgate's always giving us different things to do. I know last year they had a slices versus Oliveris competition. If you guys come here, you're going to really want to hear the results of this. So Slices is one of our pizza places in town, and then we also have Oliveris. So they got pies from both places and ordered them in, and then had every student, not every student, but whatever student wanted to come, pick up a slice of each, not knowing which was which, and anonymously vote. And Slices won, not to a big surprise for me, but there are just a bunch of things always going on. So that's super fun, and that's my typical weekend.
Awesome. Well, certainly a jam-packed weekend. John, I'll turn things over to you, and while you do that, I'm going to find a way to stop the sun from coming in. I know I said it was gray earlier. This is classic Central New York weather, everybody. We have a little phrase, just wait a little bit to see what the weather turns into. But John, the floor is yours, and I will be right back.
Sarah, you stole so much of my material. So typically on Saturdays, like Sarah said, there's that huge farmer's market. Unlike Sarah, I like to go at the beginning because I am that early bird. So I'll go with my friends, and there's this really lovely lady that sells a lot of like socks and hats that is made out of alpaca wool. And so like it's honestly really cool. And so like I will buy stuff from her. There's also like a baker who sells like baked goods, like muffins, like Rice Krispie treats, things of that nature. So I really like going into the farmer's market itself. And then afterwards, since I'm already in town, a lot of my friends and I will go to eat at Friends and Pho, which is this authentic Vietnamese restaurant in town. Really warm soup. My personal favorite is the chicken pho. And so we'll eat lunch there, either in the store themselves or outside on the Village Green, because whether depending on if it's a nice day or not. And then afterwards, we'll sort of go back to campus, do work in our rooms a little bit because, like Sarah said, we have to do work for the next week. And I don't procrastinate that much. And then afterwards, we usually go to one of the sporting events. There's typically at least one sporting event every single weekend, whether it's volleyball, basketball, football, soccer. We'll usually go there. And so I think one of the other questions was talking about varsity sports. The games here are really popular. A lot of students will go in big groups. They'll make a whole night and occasion out of it. So sometimes we'll swing by Chipotle around 40 minutes away before we go to the games, and we'll bring it inside. Sometimes athletics has Chipotle waiting for you at the gate to sort of, get people to come and show up. And that's always super fun. And honestly, the games are really fun themselves. A lot of the times there'll be really, really loud Hamilton residents. They're known as the Rowdy Raiders. They show up at almost every single game, and they're louder than the athletes on the field sometimes. It's really fun to watch. And then afterwards, I'll go back. I might either have sort of like a cheat day and go to Frank Dining Hall and get some self-serve ice cream and make my own sundae, or I'll go to the gym and I'll like be good for the day, and then I'll get some work done there. And then that's typically my Saturday. Sunday is definitely a mix of rest and relaxation, but also a lot of work. Sundays, the library is super, super packed. All of the tables on the 3rd floor where like group work happens, most of them are full by the time it hits like 10 o'clock. So I will get up 6 a.m. every single day, no doubt. And then I'll get breakfast in town with friends on Sundays. Rye Berries is this really like nice little bakery as well in town. Really good muffins, really good bread. Also, Flour and Salt is a cult classic. It's run by two Colgate alum in town. Honestly, sometimes you have to pre-order what you want the day before because everyone just wants the good breakfast food from them in the morning. And then I'll eat lunch either in my room. We'll have my friends and I will have a nice cookout in our common kitchen. And then back to sort of doing schoolwork, getting ready for the next day, and sometimes I'll take naps. But that's my usual weekend.
I think what and thank you both for disclosing that. I think what the two of you capture very well is like, despite geographically where Colgate and the village of Hamilton are located, like there's always stuff happening, right? You guys rattle off a literal laundry list of all the different ways where you can spend your time. There's many more things that you both did not say, right? That students can find themselves into. So students who are viewing, like, you'll hear us talk about Colgate in many ways and use many descriptors, but like bored or boring is not going to be one of those. I just always want to make sure I hammer that home. Now, the one final prompted questions, John and Sarah, from me, and then we'll open this up from our questions from the audience. You know, I teased it earlier, but it's a little different right now. How are your days different, right? Like, how has this semester been different? How are you adjusting? Like, just give us your honest take on like how things have been so far. And Sarah, you can start again. So now you and John will both be even.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Keaton. So just thinking to how my Colgate life is different right now. Obviously, we have our masks on everywhere we go. So just in terms of the Colgate hello, which is something that you say, or like when you smile at people that you're passing to really have that community vibe, it's a little bit harder to do. And you have to actually like say hi verbally. So that's been a big thing, like using my voice to talk to people rather than just like smiling with my mouth. But that's been awesome because I've actually been able to meet more people. And when I mistake somebody as somebody that I do know, I end up having a new friend. So that's one way that it's changed. I've gotten more friends. Other than that, I'm trying to think of actual things. So obviously classes are pretty different. Colgate has done a hybrid system. So that means that your professors get to choose, and with the input of the students, how they want to do the course. So I have a relatively old professor who does not want to risk her health, which makes complete sense. So we have class completely online. But my psychology class, my professor is really young, and she makes it so that if people want to engage online, they can, but we meet up every day that we have class, which I really appreciate just because being in person is a huge part of Colgate to me. Additionally, a lot of my tutoring groups and other clubs that I'm in have had to go virtual. So I spend a lot of time on Zoom. I will FaceTime my sidekick. I Zoom this little boy named Ethan who lives in the city to help him with his math homework. So everything's really been adjusted to make it so that it's less of a commitment because I don't have to deal with walking other places, which honestly has been awesome in some regards just because I'm able to actually do more. So prior to this year, I was only in 2 tutoring groups, but now I'm in 3. Also, just in terms of admissions, like I've been able to really get involved so much more, whereas last year I was really just giving tours, and now I'm able to give awesome webinars like this one. Other than that, I think that the only major difference that I really notice, and I'm probably skipping over stuff, so John, tons of stuff for you to touch on, is the food. So now that we have to be really safe about like sanitation and everything, rather than it being serve yourself at Frank, people serve you. And they really do encourage a grab and go style. So I have my little meal box right here from my breakfast that I have to bring back later, but they've made it really easy to make it grab and go. I go and I eat on the cross country trails with my friends. So we're surrounded by like beautiful nature, and it's actually made it really nice rather than sitting in Frank Dining Hall for like 5 hours, because time would really get taken away sitting in that social dining hall. So I found it to be like really, I've adjusted really well given all the circumstances.
Yeah, I would largely echo a lot of the things that Sarah just said. I think in terms of like classes, things are pretty configured in a way that every student has the opportunity to succeed. And honestly, like there are students I'm friends with who decided to be remote this semester. They haven't really complained about the classes, the way they're set up. They've been able to participate in the same capacity as in-person students as well. But I think just the main thing for me has been sort of the social distancing aspect. I think I'm a very touchy-feely person, so this whole change has like sort of changed my way of life in general. But I think now that sort of we're several months into quarantine and into sort of this pandemic in general, I think wearing masks and sort of maintaining health guidelines has become second nature. And honestly, I really don't notice it as much anymore. Colgate opened, we had stages of reopening, we called them gates, cute. So gate 0 was when all of the students came back to campus at the very beginning of the semester, and we were a mandatory 2-week quarantine. You really weren't allowed to leave your building or your rooms for like a good amount of time. And then afterwards, those restrictions slowly started to get lifted, where you could gather with your friends, still 6 feet apart, but sort of in larger numbers than you were able to in quarantine. And that has really helped. I think every student can sort of echo when I say this, in terms of one of the main reasons why I wanted to come back to Colgate was to see my friends and to get in-person classes. And so I have been able to visit my friends. We've been able to hang out in groups, whether it's outside. Recently, we've been able to visit each other's residence halls in common spaces there, not individual rooms, but we can sort of hang out in their space. And I think we've adapted pretty well.
Well, thank the both of you. Like I said, it's a very weird time, but I think you both did an excellent job at describing the current conditions, the conditions of the old normal. So you can tell both of you have done this before, right? All right. So let's see. I have 5:27 Eastern Standard Time on my clock here. Lots of great questions in our chat. Now, students, I just want to say for time, there is a possibility we may not get to your specific question. I'm going to leave my email in the box at the end of this in case you have anything that you need. You can follow up with me. But I think a good place to start, John and Sarah, we have a couple of questions about like transitioning from high school to college, and what are one student asked, like, what are some things that you know now that you wish you would have known? What did you find most challenging, or what surprised you? So just like lots of questions about like the jump from high school to college and sort of you growing a little bit and getting more comfortable on campus. Chat us up there. Whoever wants to go first this time. Oh, Sarah, you want John to go first? Yes? Just for the natural order of things? Okay, well, John, then you can go first.
So yeah, for me, it largely depends on the student. For me, I had a pretty smooth transition to college. I know not a lot of people did, or maybe that's a misnomer. I think it definitely depends on the experience that you have. I went to a high school that offered IB courses, so I was pretty familiar with the amount of and sort of the type of coursework that was being offered at Colgate. A lot of writing, a lot of reading, so not too much had to be adjusted on my end. The amount of schoolwork itself and coursework that I was given in terms of do it on your own time, that increased, but I think given the fact that I was living on campus and I had a lot more free time with which to do that homework, so I didn't find myself struggling too often, but even when I did have resources. So especially my first year professors were really open to asking me if I needed anything. They really made themselves available, whether it was the office hours, whether it was they gave me their personal contact information. I was able to reach out to them, get the help I needed, get back on track. And even if it wasn't my professors, there were like student groups to help me write papers, to sort of tutor me if I needed anything. And I also had the counseling center, which is 24/7 access. So if I did need to talk to someone about something, whether it was big or small, I did always have someone available.
Wow, that is awesome to hear, John. So I'm very happy that you have both of us on this panel because really everyone's experience is really different. So I have an older sister who did not go here, but she went to another university, and she found her people like right when she got to college, just because of who she is as a person, not because of her university. And I thought that I would have the same experience. However, it was a little bit harder for me. I was really into my roommate, who was super awesome and cool, and her friends. But over time, I realized that I couldn't really be myself around them. So like 3 weeks into school, I was like, I need to start from like base one. Like, how am I supposed to do this? So I called my mom and I was like, I think I need to go home. I was so worried about doing it just because I felt like everybody else already had friends, which could not be further from the truth. Now my best friends and I were all talking about it. We're like, it's so funny that we all like thought that like everyone had friends, but really we were all just in the same boat. So the transition was definitely harder. I went to a public school that we had all known each other since we started kindergarten. So making friends was something new for me, but there were a lot of ways to get involved with the community. The activity fair, which is something that we have in September for all students to get involved with the community more, was really helpful for me because I got added to a bunch of club lists. And then going to the meetings was actually where I met my roommate and my best friend. Usually when I say that one, she gets all teary, but she's not in here right now, unfortunately. But so the adjustment definitely took time. I'm going to be honest about that, but there were tons of people to go to talk about it. So my favorite person to go to was my link, who I'm a link now. And so that's the orientation leader. And that's basically the first person that you meet on campus that helps you get acclimated. There's also tons of really nice older students. Like I can't even stress like how incredible they all are. Like John is one of them. We get lunch weekly. Like it's just really nice how much everyone wants each other to succeed. So in terms of adjusting socially, while it took me a little bit more time just because of who I am, it definitely happened. And I know that I had it harder than a lot of people, and I still like I'm completely in love with this place. In terms of academics, the public school that I come from is definitely well resourced. So the adjustment academically was an adjustment, but it wasn't as severe as some of my other friends. So I have some friends who like would go to the writing center like every single week, which is totally normal to do. I do it now. I didn't do it initially just because I was like, I don't need the writing center. But instead it was making like my A minuses A's. So that's really awesome. And like, I'm just grade dropping. Those are not my actual grades all the time, I promise you guys. But the writing center was a great resource, and professors and their office hours, I completely forgot to point that out to you guys, but my typical day often consists of going to office hours, whether that's to get help on a paper or help on an upcoming test, or just check in with my professor and see how her dog is doing. It's really nice. And professors sort of act like your parents in some ways. So I actually had my earring stuck in my ear last year, and my friend's FSEM, which is your first year seminar professor, we emailed her, and she lives in town, and she was like, all right, meet me on the village green and I will help you. And she helped me take my earring out of my ear, which was something I could not do myself for some reason. But that just, yeah, I really went off on a tangent, but the adjustment, while it took some time, it definitely happened. And there were tons of things on campus to help me with that.
Colgate, I suppose students, it can be there, you know, just hearing these stories from John and Sarah in whatever way it is that you need, whether it's academic support, whether it's an earring crisis that you need addressed. Absolutely, the level of support that we provide for our students is top notch. All right, I have a couple of questions here, John and Sarah, about like favorite spot on campus, or like most beautiful spot. So like, what for the two of you, like what's your favorite spot on campus, and can you do your best to describe those areas?
So I have two favorite spots on campus. I'll go with one of my favorite study spots, and then also just like one of my favorite like hangout spots. So my favorite study spot is in Person Hall, which is home to like our education studies department. Also a few other things like IR and stuff like that, but I'm more interested in education, so that's why I said it first. It's basically the Sky Bridge. If you go on Colgate's website, you'll definitely see it somewhere. It overlooks Taylor Lake, which was built by the same man who like built Central Park. So like very beautiful. There's like lots of like mountain ranges, and like the trees right now are beautiful. So just when I'm like stressed and doing work, I like to look up and remember like, oh, like nature, that makes me feel better about myself just for some reason. So that's one spot that I love to go. And then where I love to socialize, this sounds like really weird, but like me and my friends, we go on tons of walks together. I guess it doesn't sound that weird. It was weirder last year when like walks weren't a normal thing, but now they are. So we have the cross country trails, and I like walk as far as I can before I need to take a breath, and it's like 10 feet, I'll tell you. There's a hill, but it's absolutely beautiful, and there's just like tons of miles of stuff. Like the other day I was walking and like I got back to my dorm and I was like, oh, I just walked 8 miles, and I was like, how did that even happen? So it's just really beautiful up there at all times of year. The fall, it's stunning. The winter, it's like crisp and nice. So I would totally recommend going up there if you just want to like get away from campus. And it's not even away from campus. It's like a 20-foot walk up the hill.
Yeah, I think I'll take a page out of Sarah's book, and I'll tell you my favorite social spot and then my favorite study spot. In terms of study spot, my favorite would be sort of the 3rd and 4th floor atriums in the Ho Science Center. It's sort of like this sort of concave U-shaped building. It sort of stretches out the back of campus, and just huge, like the back wall is just like all windows. So it's a ton of natural light, and you get to look at out of all of the pretty hills, the pretty trees, especially in the fall where all of the colors are changing. It's one of my favorite spots on campus, and it's right next to the Geology Museum, where you get to look at all of the rocks and fossils that Colgate has. And the little rock nerd in me really loves that. So that's one of my favorite study spots on campus. I could stay there all day. And then in terms of social spots, sort of similar to Sarah, the cross-country trails are really enticing, but specifically the field right before the trail starts, it's sort of the sloping hill that leads down to the back of 2 of our newest residence halls. And we call it the Field of Dreams because a popular nighttime activity is students will go out there at around midnight, 1 a.m., lay their blankets down and just like stargaze. And since we are like literally in the middle of nowhere, there's no like light pollution, you get a really clear picture of those stars, and that's one of my favorite spots.
Both awesome answers. Thank you guys for those. Next up, I've got a lot of questions about if we would be so kind to talk about Greek lives present on campus. And there's also a couple of questions, guys, about like party culture, like what is that like on campus? So whoever wants to begin there, feel free to dive in.
So I guess I could go about Greek life. I know that like just in terms of the rhetoric that we use in the admissions department varies year to year. Keaton, please correct me if I'm wrong, but what I like to say is that it's not Greek life. For me, it's a Greek letter organization. And that is just because it does not dominate your life. It would be weird to call it life because it's just another thing that I'm in. It's just another club that I'm doing. And that's why I really focus on that. It is an organization. It's just another thing that I can do. So I don't think it dominates it at all. If you're on an athletic team, whether that's varsity or club, or if you're in OE, like outdoor education, even in like a specific major, like people have their own social outings that each club and department functions as their own organization. And Greek letters are just another way to do that. So I hope that answers your question on how dominant it is, because it really, like 30% of our eligible students do partake in it, but being eligible, you have to have a specific GPA and you have to be a sophomore. So we also have delayed recruitment, which makes it so that you're not rushing for friends. You're going through recruitment just to find a group of supportive men or women and to enrich something of your Colgate life. So I'd say it's just like another supplemental thing that you have at Colgate. There definitely are like nightlife mixers among sororities and fraternities and stuff like that. I've never experienced it because I am a new member and it's COVID, so we're not doing that right now. But that could range from like a paint party where like you dress up in all white and like have some fun with paint, to like maybe even like a movie night. I'm not really sure because I'm not part of it, but from the things that I've heard, well, I am part of it, but I haven't been part of it. But from the things that I've heard, it's just a very uplifting and fun community. In addition to that, I know that some people are very wary of Greek life as there are a lot of institutional problems with it. And something that I love about Greek life at Colgate is that I feel that we really address those issues. So yesterday I was in a colorism in Greek life, a Greek letter organization. I know that I'm the one who made that correction, but it's really difficult sometimes. But it's not life. I was in a colorism in your Greek letter organization meeting where we just sort of talked about our own personal experiences with racism and colorism on campus and how we could best go about that moving forwards. And then we also have something called like SAPAS, which is where we're able to state our grievances to our fraternities and how we don't feel comfortable with specific things that they're doing. So that could be whether they're perpetuating sexual assault, which we've really been great at shutting down, or just like not being nice. We're able to handle that. So I think that Colgate's Greek-led organizations are really like broad and varying, and they're a great supplement to something that you would do at Colgate.
I think the only thing I would add is that, I'm unaffiliated. I had my own personal reasons for not choosing to become a part of a Greek-led organization. But like Sarah said, it really does not dominate your life. You can make it as much of your life as you want, or as little a part of it as you want. And I'm unaffiliated. I have several friends across the fraternities and across the sororities on campus. They're friends with each other. They hang out. There's no really cliquish personalities. And I think that even though I am unaffiliated, I'm still able to attend a lot of those events, a lot of the past events that were held pre-COVID. And so I really think that all institutions can improve, but I think for the most part, it's a lot better than at other schools.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Let's see. We are pressed for time a little bit. Here's a good question. So I see the word traditions popping up a lot in our little chat here. For the two of you, what would you identify as maybe your favorite Colgate tradition?
Okay, I'll go first. My favorite Colgate tradition is Dance Fest, which is our semesterly event. It happens once in the fall, once in the spring. It's where all of the performing dance groups on campus get together and perform the choreography in front of literally the entire student body. The line to get into the chapel when Dance Fest is being hosted, it literally like runs through the entire quad because everyone just wants to be there, and it's a packed house. It's live streamed. A lot of the alum actually watch because it does hold a lot of special memories for them, and it's a really fun event. And I think it just showcases how much everyone wants to support their friends, and it's definitely one of my favorite activities.
I'm having trouble thinking of just like an activity like that. So Dance Fest was a great thing, but something that I definitely want to focus on is our tradition of the 13. So if you guys are not familiar with this, 13 is like Colgate's lucky number. 13 is everything here. So the reason that is because it was founded by 13 men with 13 prayers and $13. Our zip code is 13346. So the first two numbers are 13. And then if you add 3 plus 4 plus 6, which are the last three numbers, you also get 13. Every Friday the 13th is like Colgate Day. So the bookstore has a little 13% off sale, and they give out little chipwiches in the quad, which is another tradition. Chipwiches, Burn Dairy, which is a local dairy farm, just like makes them, and we give them out. If you come for a tour, you should come. You'll get a chipwich. I also started dating my boyfriend on Friday the 13th, who goes to Colgate. So that's a little like personal fun fact that is like, oh, Colgate relationship, super cute, in my opinion. My mailbox number, if you want to send me any treats, it's 1309. So that's 13, and then 1 plus 3 plus 0 plus 9 also makes 13. So everything at Colgate embodies 13. We have staircases with 13 steps. Cnosione, our senior honor society, if you use it on Scrabble, gets you 13 points. I cannot stop with all the 13. It's just super fun, and everyone knows it to be like something special about Colgate because anywhere else you go, 13 is not a lucky number, but here it definitely is.
That's pretty wild, Sarah, about your mailbox number. The most up-to-date use of the number 13. Our athletics department recently updated a couple like logos and things. One of the logos is GATE, G-A-T-E, which is like a cute little nickname we give ourselves. It is slanted at exactly a 13-degree angle. So the number 13 really is everywhere. Let's see.
Colgate outdoes itself.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Always going over the top. Let's see. I have one more question specifically for John, since I think this applies to you more. And then Sarah and John, if you want to go through our question and answer, pick one question that you each want to answer, just for the sake of time. But John, the question to you is, since you are technically geographically further away, tell us about the weather. Tell us specifically about the winter. We have a couple of questions about that.
Yeah, so that's a great question, and it's definitely something to keep in mind if you are not from the central New York area. I personally came from Virginia, sort of temperate mid-Atlantic climate, really hot summers, pretty cold winters, but like definitely not as cold as here. I would say the transition honestly wasn't bad. I think as long as you bring a good pair of winter boots and a good winter coat, you'll be set. You'll be good to go. And honestly, like you really do become acclimatized to it pretty fast. I think in the very beginning of my first year winter, I spent a lot of time indoors. I was like huddled next to my friends because I just wanted to get as close to them as possible to steal their body warmth. But then afterwards, you know, I started wearing less layers. I was having more fun in the snow. I would go out sledding. There's a lot of hot chocolate and like hot beverages around campus, so you're never like, your hands are never too cold. You always have something warm to hold. And then the seasons in themselves are really beautiful. Colgate is a campus that has all 4 seasons. So if that's something you don't get to experience back home, that's definitely something you can see here. Fall's particularly beautiful, but I think the winter, although like daunting at first, I think the average temperature range is between 12 and 30 degrees in the winter. So I think as long as you bundle up, you're good to go.
Bundling up and layering, certainly key. Good jacket, good pair of boots. Uggs are not waterproof, right? So helpful tips. All right, Sarah, since you had a little bit of downtime, what is your one question that you yourself want to answer before we sign off for all 110 of our friends here today?
So the one question that I want to answer is actually one that some people will probably disagree with, and some people, I mean Keaton and John, but it's what made Colgate stand out to you during your college search. So something that's really important to me to address is that I actually didn't want to come to Colgate. I flipped a coin and it landed here, and now I'm here. And I feel like people are really pressured to be like, oh, I have this certain vibe. I feel like I should be where my heart wants me to be, or it just stuck out to me. I never had a moment like that. I did not care about going to college. I was just doing what my parents told me to do. So we were on a call, and I now like to say, why do I stay at Colgate rather than what made me come here? Because I think that's so much more telling about Colgate and its community. So what makes Colgate stand out to me so that I stay here and I don't transfer, because that's a very similar thing to just picking a school, is the community that I found. I think that just the fact that I'm on this call shows how confident and proud I am of everything that I've done at Colgate. And when I say that I feel like I have a place where I know I'm welcome and I know I belong, is an understatement. I have never felt such a sense of belonging in my entire life. And it feels so incredible to be appreciated, whether that's with the 7-year-old boy that I tutor or within a class of 60 students and my teacher being like, oh yeah, Sarah emailed me last night, happy birthday, like something like that, because you know when your professors' birthdays are. And like, I always get like emotional when I talk about it, but Colgate really is a home for me. And I know for a fact it's a home for everyone else who comes back here. So if you're not having that moment where it feels like magic and like you're floating a little bit, that's okay, because Colgate, no matter who you are, will be the right place for you, because there are so many different people that go here. So I hope that that's your sign if you were looking for one. ED, I didn't, and that's my biggest regret to this day. Just because it's fun to be like, I ED'd, and it's also better chances.
Okay, I think for my question, I think I can kill 3 birds with 1 stone. In terms of like my favorite classes, how I found those classes, and my favorite faculty experience. My favorite class that I've ever taken on Colgate's campus has been Core Middle East. It's part of our core curriculum. If you do more research, you'll learn all about it. But basically, I was learning about the communities and identities of the Middle East and sort of what that geographic location entailed. And just sort of to preface, my resting face makes me look sad. Like when I'm relaxed, I just like look sad. And so I'll usually be sitting in the hallway outside class or in between classes. And my Core Middle East professor would always walk past me, and she would always ask me if I was okay. And I would always say yes, because I genuinely was fine. But her response was always, I don't believe you, come into my office hours and we'll talk about it. And so to me, like I would go to talk to her about it. if I was having a bad day, or if I just wanted to talk about like tattooing practices in North Africa, or if I needed help with an internship, she would always be there for me. Amanda Rogers, a professor in the Middle Eastern and Islamic Studies department. And so I think the fact that she was sort of went out of her way to sort of approach me and proactively see if I needed anything from her and was one paying attention in the first place. Also, given the fact that she was this amazing woman with a bunch of governmental credentials, a bunch of awards and publications, she was really taking the time out of her day to like talk to me like as a real human being. And that sort of, that sense of community and individualized support is what really sold me on Colgate in the first place. And in terms of like my major and how I found that class in the first place, I thought I wanted to be IR, didn't work out. I decided I hated economics, but I really liked the cultural aspect of all the classes I was taking, and the registrar just happened to put me in them that first semester, and so I was really able to get that liberal arts experience and diversify what my potential interests were. So I think it's pretty normal if your interests do change. Mine did, but I've genuinely enjoyed all of my classes and professors here.
Brilliant. Well, I think that's a great way to wrap things up. Sarah and John, thank you so much for your time, for your fun personalities, for your honesty about this place. Like, yes, students, as you saw, you know, so Sarah was the final of the three of us, but all of our emails are in the chat. So if you have any questions about anything, please don't hesitate to follow up with us. I know there's some questions that we just were not able to get to today, but hopefully a clearer picture has start to form for all of you as far as what Colgate is, what it's about, sort of what we're rolling with. Thank you all so much for bearing with me. As you know, the sun has been really trying to interrupt my presentation today. But students and my panelists, I really hope everyone has a really awesome, well-deserved weekend. And please let me know personally if I can help with anybody. So thank you, John and Sarah, again. Students, thank you all for tuning in. And I hope to talk to all of you really, really soon. All right. Take care, everybody.